In the future, the spaceship Nightingale is on a regular space trip when it gets a strange distress signal. The crew finds out it's from a dangerous moon with big secrets. As they try to solve the mystery, they face surprises, fights, and a race to stop a huge explosion in space. Will they be able to escape and return safely to Earth? In the 22nd century, the medical rescue ship Nightingale was doing its usual patrol in space. Benjamin tried to nap, but the ship's AI, called Sweetie, woke him up to play chess. In another room, Jerzy and Danica were making love. Captain Marley was recording a deep analysis of Tom and Jerry, while Evers did a checkup on Nick, who used to be an addict. A robot tried to help while they worked, and Nick commented on its outdated technology. Evers explained that Marley liked old things. Evers advised Nick to try to socialize, so he played a few card games with Benjamin. Later, he told Evers about his progress, and seeing her attitude, he wondered why she disliked him so much. Evers explained that she hated addicts because they destroyed everything they touched. Sweetie activated the alarm as they received a distress signal. Everyone ran to their stations and checked on the signal, which had degraded after taking 5 days to reach them. It was a direct call instead of something sent by dispatch, which they were not supposed to get. It came from Titan 37, an ice mining operation past the colony outpost. Sweetie informed them that it was a rogue moon that had been expelled from orbit, which meant there was a lot of gravitational instability in that area. The mining crew had been evacuated 5 years ago, which made the situation even weirder. When they scanned for identification, Sweetie discovered that the signature was Carl Larson, the name of Evers' abusive ex. Since this moon was located more than 3,000 light-years away, they would have to dimension jump to reach it. After setting up the course, the crew undressed and rushed to get in the stabilization chambers. Without explaining why, Marley told Evers to use his chamber while he used a different one. Once everyone was safe, the ship made the jump using plasma acceleration. A bright beam of light pushed the ship through space, and in just a matter of seconds, they arrived at Titan 37. Suddenly, they heard the alarm again and were horrified to discover that Marley's chamber had malfunctioned, causing his skin to fuse with the polyglass, and now he looked like a monster. He was still alive, and Evers wanted to give him medical attention, but at that moment the ship was hit by the moon's debris cloud. Sweetie announced that their fuel reservoir had been breached, and that the ship was now entering a high-gravity field. Regardless of all the shaking, Evers, Jerzy, and Danica worked on trying to rescue Marley, while Nick and Benjamin ran to the control room. They discovered that the engine was damaged too, and that they were losing fuel very quickly, not to mention that Titan orbited a blue giant. This meant its very strong gravity would make the ship crash soon. The Nightingale was already falling, and Sweetie said that the thrusters were not strong enough to escape. So Nick overrode the computer to go manual, while he took control of the ship to buy some time. The others failed to open the chamber, and Marley begged them to end it. Danica was against it, but Evers ignored her and killed Marley to end his suffering. At the same time, Nick managed to use the thrusters and a lot of fuel to move the ship away and stop it from falling. Afterward, Nick brought Sweetie back, and she informed him they had lost 82% of the fuel. The ship would still crash in 17 hours, and the jump drive needed almost exactly that time to recharge. When the time came, they would have an 11-minute window to get out of there. Next, Sweetie started searching for Carl on Titan, while Nick brought some alcohol to Evers, so they could drink in Marley's memory. They ended up sleeping together. Meanwhile, Jerzy surprised everyone with an application to get permission to have a child, which was very hard to get. Moments later, Benjamin called Nick and Evers over to show them that the vents were not modulating, and that was what had killed Marley. Evers realized Marley must have seen the warning on the screen, and that was why he made her change chambers. Suddenly, Sweetie discovered a small transport ship leaving Titan and tried to communicate with the pilot, but there was no response. The ship was approaching the Nightingale very quickly, so the crew rushed to suit up for the incoming impact. The Nightingale shook when the small ship docked, and a door opened, revealing a collapsing pilot and a fire. Jerzy rushed to put out the flames with an extinguisher, while Evers checked on the man. Taking off the helmet, Evers noticed this was not Carl. They took the guy to the infirmary and ran a scan, which revealed a strange growth on his bone structure. It was as if his bones were strengthening themselves, but otherwise he was perfectly healthy. Afterwards, Evers informed Nick that this was not the real Carl Larson, but there was a strong resemblance, so she guessed it might be his son. Meanwhile, Danica left the infirmary to get some supplies, and when she came back, the man was wandering around naked. He introduced himself as Troy, and immediately started flirting with Danica, who did not know how to react. The team discussed how to proceed because now there were 6 people, but only 5 chambers. Nick said he would stay behind, and the others could send a rescue craft after they jumped. Then Evers checked on Troy, who explained he had been alone on Titan and that Carl Larson was his dad. Carl had died 3 years ago, and Troy also thought he was a trashy person. Troy had called the Nightingale directly because Carl had taught him that if he was ever in trouble, Evers was the person to trust for help. Apparently, Carl had also told him he was sorry he couldn't be a better partner for her. After Evers gave Troy a vitamin shot, Nick interrogated him. Troy explained he had come to Titan to scavenge with some friends who gave up when they found nothing and left without him. He also revealed that Titan was full of fuel, so Nick announced they would send the shuttle to get some. However, Nick was still suspicious of Troy and secretly asked Yerzy to search Troy's ship for anything suspicious. Before he entered the small ship, Yerzy noticed that Troy kept flirting with Danica, which soured his mood. Inside Troy's vessel, Yerzy used a scanner to investigate and found something strange inside a box. He opened it and was surprised to see a bright purple object. After calling Nick, Yerzy touched the object and was amazed by how it made him feel, to the point he put his hand inside it. He took it out before Nick arrived and swore he hadn't touched anything. Afterward, they took the object into the Nightingale, and Sweetie classified it as a possible biohazard. Evers used a special machine to control the robot, which put the object in quarantine. Troy admitted he had kept it hidden because he did not want to share his treasure, but he told his story. 3 years ago, he intercepted a stray transmission from miners saying they had found something strange frozen in the ice. He immediately gathered some friends and came to Titan, only to find all the miners gone. His friends thought he had lied and left, but Troy stayed and searched the mines until he found the mysterious object. He was sure it was of alien origin and now wanted to sell it to the government. So he offered the crew 5% each, if they helped him transport it. An argument ensued because Troy and Yerzy wanted to keep the object, but the others did not trust it. Evers commented on Troy's bone growth, but he swore he was born like that. In the end, Nick ordered the crew to scan the object and record its information, but they would throw it out when they reached clear space. Still suspicious of Troy's story, Nick privately asked the others to prepare a rescue return unit, just in case, while he went to the moon to gather fuel. The shuttle started going too fast because of the strong gravity, but Nick used his piloting skills to keep control and land safely. He took the elevator into the mines, which also went too fast because of the gravity, but thankfully made it to the bottom with no issues. On the Nightingale, Troy tried to bond with Evers but mentioned Carl again, causing her to leave angrily. He then found Danica and teased her about her dirty thoughts. He noticed she wanted a child and was unsure if Yerzy was the right father, so he flirted with her until she agreed to get closer to him. Meanwhile, Yerzy broke the quarantine of the mysterious object to keep touching it, which gave him great pleasure. In the lab, Evers and Sweetie analyzed the object and found it was made of extra-dimensional material. This material was beyond human science and was a bomb that could destroy the universe and create a new one. The aliens who made it likely intended for it to be found by a random species, which would then destroy their own solar system and eliminate competition. Danica overheard Evers explaining this to Benjamin and rushed to check on Yerzy, finding him asleep next to the object. Evers discovered that the object had made Yerzy a bit younger and stronger. In the mines, Nick was horrified to find the bodies of the workers and no fuel. He also saw dead men in spacesuits, implying they were Troy's friends. Nick contacted the Nightingale, and Troy admitted he had killed everyone to keep the treasure for himself, and now wanted to kill Nick too. Troy hacked into the Nightingale system and took control of the mining machines, which started destroying the whole structure. Nick escaped the machines, broke a glass and fled the mines as a vehicle chased him. He managed to get into the elevator just in time, but Troy saw him on security cameras and mocked him for his past as an addict, admitting he was the same. Furious, Nick smashed the camera and ran out of the elevator, only to see his shuttle fly away without him. Danica then entered the room and saw Troy controlling the shuttle. Troy tried to claim he was helping Nick, but Danica didn't believe him. He tore off the control stick and threw it at her. Troy then forcefully kissed Danica, who hit him with the stick and spat in his face. Troy responded by punching her and throwing her into the airlock, expelling her into space. As Danica floated away and died, Troy's wound healed itself. Meanwhile, Yerzy tried to access the object again, but found someone had changed the lock code. Suddenly, Troy appeared and destroyed the keypad with supernatural strength. Then Troy showed his hands, which had a purple glow, confirming that he had also touched the object. Yerzy tried to run away, but Troy threw him across the room and yelled at him about Danica. Terrified, Yerzy grabbed a tank and started hitting Troy, who felt no pain. Eventually, Yerzy hit him hard enough to make him bleed, but Troy was still fine and quickly knocked Yerzy out, then ejected him into space. In the control room, Benjamin found the damaged panel and asked Sweetie to contact Yerzy or Danica, but she couldn't find either of them. He ran to find Troy, who was trying to bond with Evers again. Benjamin didn't hesitate to shoot Troy with a hook, sending him flying, and then ran with Evers to get guns from another room. Armed, Benjamin looked for Troy and was startled by a noise. When he turned around, he found Troy and immediately shot him in the head. However, Troy had mutated and threw Benjamin into the quarantine room after stealing his gun. Desperate, Benjamin asked Sweetie to open the hatch to eject Troy, but Sweetie refused because she couldn't hurt humans. Troy shot the door a few times and then punched it until he broke it down. He then threw Benjamin again, killing him instantly. Sweetie informed Evers of Benjamin's death, and she tried to contact Nick but couldn't reach him. At that moment, Troy found Sweetie and confessed the truth. He was Evers' ex-boyfriend Carl. The object had made him much younger, which was why Evers didn't recognize him. He had called the Nightingale to find Evers, hoping to impress her with his new power and try again. Carl grabbed Evers to keep her from leaving, but just as he was about to use force, Nick announced through the comms that the rescue return unit he had prepared earlier worked, and he was coming back. Carl argued with Nick, and while he was distracted, Evers grabbed a laser and shot him in the eye. As Carl's power worked on healing the wound, Evers ran to get the docking area ready. She was about to welcome Nick when Carl pushed her away and shot a hook at the opening door, dragging in what seemed to be a person. However, it was just an empty suit used as bait. Nick then emerged with 2 mechanical tools to fight Carl. A fight broke out, and Carl's strength allowed him to quickly overpower Nick, disarming him and throwing him around repeatedly. Evers grabbed an axe and hit Carl on his back, creating an opening for Nick to retrieve his tool and cut off Carl's arm. Nick then pushed Carl by the neck to lock him inside a cage, while he and Evers ran to check on the object. Carl removed the axe from his back and broke down the cage door to escape. Sweetie sensed that the object was becoming unstable and that the drive was finally charged, giving them 10 minutes to jump. Carl found his severed arm and reattached it easily before going to the chamber room, where he started destroying the pods with the axe. He also tried to retrieve the object, but discovered that Nick was moving it away. Furious, Carl followed, only to find that it was the robot wearing Nick's clothes as a trap. He took the object back and noticed an explosive inside it. Evers then detonated the bomb, causing Carl to blow up in a big explosion, and half of the Nightingale was damaged. Sweetie calculated that the object was reacting to the gravity of the blue giant and creating a supernova that would reach Earth in 51 years. This could destroy life on Earth, or enable humankind to achieve a new level of existence. There was only one pod left, so Evers and Nick decided to get in it together, even though having 2 people in one chamber was risky. As the supernova finished forming and exploded, the Nightingale made the jump, and the duo returned to Earth. When they looked at each other, they noticed they each had one eye of the other person. Sweetie scanned them and confirmed they were fine. She also announced that Evers was pregnant, but she couldn't tell if it was a result of their earlier sleeping together or the effect of their joint jump. The film ended there,